Are we ready to move on to Dallas?
The
Let's do
Dallas
this.
Stars. Are we ready for the Dallas Stars?
Vince, you leading us in
Vince,
here?
you're leading us in.
Of course, because I got a player that I'm going to tell you is going to be a superstar on the Dallas Stars.
Let me guess, you have him.
Yes. Okay, so Dallas Stars, just to recap. Last year's standings, 52 wins, 21 losses. Their power play was 6th in the league, which was very, very good. The ins and outs of the team, Colin Blackwell, Mike Dumba, Brendan Smith, Ilya Lubushkin, and Casey DeSmith are all in. Who's out? Pavelski, Tanev, Suter, Hakanap, and Wedgwood. These are all guys that were out. In the tiers, so tier 1, 91 points and more, we do not have any players on there. Tier 2, 80 to 90 points. We have Jason Robertson, who had 80 points last year, 109 the year before. So who is the real Jason Robinson? That's the question. He went from 46 goals to 29 goals. Tier 3, 70 to 79 points. Ropey Hintz, 65 points last year, 75 the year before. He's starting to get into that I'm always injured season area. Wyatt Johnson, my friends, that's the player. 65 points last year, 32 goals, 33 assists, had a phenomenal playoff run. Tier 4, 60 to 69 points, Tyler Seguin. Jamie Benn, he hit 60 points last year, had a decent season. Matt Duchesne with 65 points last year, and Hiskinen was on pace for 62 for a defenseman last year. Goalies, listen, I don't think there's any question about goalies, is that Jake Ottinger is the number one goalie. He had a .905 save percentage, 2.72 goals against average, and people said he had an off year. Imagine that. With those numbers, people imagined you had an off year. Backup goalie this year, Casey DeSmith, comes in. He played 29 games. His stats are not the best, but, prospects.
Long time Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, long time. For 3 days. This team, I don't know how this team does it, but always picks up just
The steals.
they just draft players. That's why I drafted Emil Hemmings this year, because he went to Dallas.
He signed his entry-level
Of course
contract.
he did. So top prospects, Stan Coven, who was a full-timer during the playoffs with the Dallas Stars. Maverick Bork, who did his time in the AHL. And they think he will start the season in the NHL. And then there's Antonio Stangens, 2022. Ooh, sorry, Strange. Oh, Strange. Nick, you forgot the R. Strange. 2022 draft. Hemmings, 2024 draft.
I like how now everybody knows that I'm the one that does all the production instead of producer Vince.
Kyrou, 2022 draft. Millington, 2023 draft. And Michelle, 2022 draft. So, listen, do we think there's going to be a 91-plus point player on this team?
Well, if anybody has the chance, it's going to be Jason Robertson. Last year, Jason Robertson pulled a Tage Thompson. They both had off years at the exact same time. The problem is that he still ended up with an 80-point pace, which is good. The year before that, we said he had a 109-point pace. The year before that, 88-point pace. So I think that you're right there. You're seeing kind of who Jason Robertson is. So a player that should be hovering around that 85 to 90-point player. And if he has an exceptional shooting percentage 1 year, or if he has, depending on injuries, or like he's played 2 full 82-game seasons back-to-back now.
Well, to touch on your shooting percentage, so I was looking at it and I said, okay, what went wrong? How did he go from 79 to 109 to 80? Like, what changed? And in 2021, 2022, when he played 74 games, he had 79 points. He had an 18.6 shooting percentage. Very, very high. The next year, he had 109 points. But his shooting percentage was 14.7. He scored 46 goals. But you know what changed? He took over 100 more shots on goal than the year before.
That's right.
Now he went from 109 to 80 points. What the heck happened? Only 29 goals. And I'm like, geez. He went back down to 230 shots on goal, and his shooting percentage dipped to 12.6.
So is he a person that shoots 220 to 230, which seems to be twice now he's done that? Or is he a person that shoots 313?
Maybe somewhere in between when all is said and done. But if I had to project, I'd say maybe 230.
Well, that's the way it looks like now.
Right? 230 with a shooting percentage of, like, his average shooting percentage is 14.9. So
you're expecting a higher point pace than he had last year, but
Yeah.
not as high as he had in
not enough to
2022.
enter tier 1.
Okay.
But I
So
do
85
think
to
it's very
90.
feasible for him in the future. But for next year, I can't project him over 91. You, Vince?
Yeah, I think he hits over 91 next year. I think, like, just
This
listen.
is very generous. Have
But
you noticed?
listen to what we're saying. We're saying he had an off year last year and he hit 80 points. How hard could it be to get 11 more points? And
Hard.
No, but because you just said it. He hit 80 points, but he hit 29 goals. We can all agree he can easily hit 40 goals.
Well, he hit 40 goals 2 years before that in a row, right?
So
Yeah.
you know, so to get those, it's listen. If last year he hit 70 points, I would have told you yes. Okay, he's not hitting 91.
Listen, Linda.
Listen, Linda, but he hit 80 points on a bad year. Guaranteed he can hit 91 plus points.
Well, you know what's going to help him? No Pavelski. So what I was reading, and I wish I remembered the source, is that when Pavelski joined the Dallas Stars, they modified their power play structure. It went less towards how Robertson was providing the offense before, and it was more dictated towards getting Pavelski in that, was it the bumper spot? So that took away, obviously, points from him, because in the season where he got 46 goals and 63 assists, the guy had 13 power play goals and 28 power play assists. It's 41 points on the power play.
I was told there would be no math.
I was told. 41 points on the power play is absolutely redonkulous. Then this year went back down to 28. So, I don't know. He's never done that before. See, that was the only time. It was like a once in a... Now that Pavelski's not there, does his power play points increase? Maybe not to 41, but to like 35.
Okay, so
To your point.
Rupe Hintz. We mentioned it already. He's a little bit of a Band-Aid boy, a little bit of papier mache, a little bit of loose leaf paper.
Can I correct you on that?
Please.
80 games played last year, 73 the year before, and 80 the year before that.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
Is he wrongly listed as a loose leaf paper?
Oh wow, he played 80 games last year. I did not know he played 80 games last
You
year.
wouldn't have known based off
The points that he got, 65 points last year.
But I did. It's because he did miss a game, came back, but like he wasn't very healthy throughout the season. Although he played, I think that's where it comes from.
Okay, so
You would know because you have him. So you,
right. I think we're looking at a 70-point player. I think that's what he is. He's 70 to 75 points. I'm not expecting an 80 to 90 point. He's not a point per game guy, but he puts up just enough to be relevant.
He has good chemistry with Robertson, which will make him be in that 70 to 75 point. And I think his biggest upside in fantasy is he plays in every single situation. So he'll give you those shorthanded goals, those shorthanded assists. He'll give you those power play goals, power play assists. So he plays in every situation and is reliable both ways. So the coach will put him out there. But yeah, I like, to me, he like Nick said, 70 to 75. But if Jason Robertson hits that over 91, he might hit, the high 70s.
So in the last 4 years, Rupe Hintz has had an 86-point pace, a 74-point pace, an 84-point pace, and last year, unfortunately, the 67-point pace. So, to your point, he could hit 80. He's done it on pace, at least.
Yeah.
look, I like it. He has an average shooting percentage of 16.5. That's very high. Again, no Pavelski on the
That
power
seems
play.
to be his. That seems to be his career.
Yeah, that's his career average.
So he's just a good shooter.
He's a good shooter, and he doesn't take too many shots on goal either. So I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I see him living between the 70 and 80 point range.
He also plays.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Don't draft him in the first round of your playoff pool. You'll be disappointed.
All right. We spoke about Jake Ottinger a bit. His goals saved above expected per 60 at 5-on-5 was minus 0.130. That was 47th in the league.
Only 32 teams, guys. Just a reminder.
So when we're saying Jake Ottinger had an off year, he did have an off year. Although his save percentage and goals against average weren't abysmal, he did not have a very good year. Casey DeSmith had a decent year in Vancouver, 29 games played. Do we think that we need to play Jake Ottinger less a bit, or
I don't think Casey DeSmith is an upgrade over Wedgwood. So I just think Ottinger will have a better season this year.
to DeSmith's credit, his goals saved above expected per 60 at 5-on-5 was 17th in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was in, he did play and perform well.
Listen, there's two players that we haven't touched on. I think we should touch on Heiskanen as a defenseman because he's
Number one defenseman.
so Heiskanen as a defenseman. Like, what's his threshold? What's his ceiling? Because like there, people are saying last year 62 points was an off year. So what's his?
Yeah, a 62-point pace. Is that it?
He got 62 points last year. No.
So I was talking
On
about
pace. Sorry, on
pace for 62?
Yeah. So what's like is because
the year before that he was on pace for 76.
Yeah, that's it. Because he was drafted
You don't want to know the year before, though.
top 5,
42.
right? He was drafted top 5. So is he just a very good, reliable defenseman with a bit of offense?
Here's the difference. In the last 2 years where he got 60-point paces and higher, he was playing 70% of the power play.
Okay.
So that means that he was on the ice with PP1, and that's where his numbers started going up because all of a sudden his power play points in 22-23 was 34 power play points. In 23-24, it was 21 power play points. So he relied heavily on the power play to get his points. If that continues next year, you're still looking at a 60 to 75. I mean, that's a big range, but you could easily predict a 70-point defenseman here,
Okay.
which is a number one defenseman.
Going to use that 92.
Well, you can't compare. You can't say like McKinnon had 140, so I guess
He's better than McDavid. It is what it is.
I guess nobody else is worth it.
Quinn Hughes averages 2 seconds of short-handed time, and Heiskanen's career averages a minute 29.
Okay, Junior.
All right.
Also, only 36 giveaways, 33 takeaways, block shots, hits, guys. That's not good.
But Heiskanen, yes. Heiskanen, I believe, could be a 70-point defenseman.
If he wants to keep being a number one defenseman, he has to hit 70 points at least. But
There was a
and
couple of players.
just to touch on his power play time, I know Thomas Harley is the new fling in fantasy because of his contracts, but out of the 18 goals, they were both on for 18 goals on the power play, Heiskanen and Harley. 15 of those goals, it was Heiskanen that was on the power play, and 3 only were for Harley. So I think the power play time is safe with Heiskanen.
Okay, let's move on to Jamie Benn. Can he hit 60 again? Let's do this like rapid fire.
Jamie Benn. Listen, he's gonna play with Wyatt Johnson, who I have him at a point per game player. So yeah, he could hit 60 points.
Wow. I'm going to go with...
you completely skipped Wyatt Johnson, who's their like second best player.
No, I thought we mentioned him already.
No, we didn't. Or else I was gonna tell you. I think he's a point per player. A point per game player.
He's a point per player.
Guaranteed 82 points. Guaranteed. Wyatt Johnson could
82
become.
points guaranteed.
No,
Board
no.
bet. Board bet. Write it down. Write it down. I want a
next year.
freaking steak. I want a steak dinner.
Not next year. I just said he can become a point per player.
Oh, like eventually.
No, like in the next 2 years.
So not next year, the year after.
Even next year.
Okay.
100%.
Hey, listen, 65 points last year, right? So okay, let's.
Okay, so wait, Jamie Benn, 60
We
points.
kind of went all over the place with Dallas.
Well,
So
it's
here,
'cause
but
you missed
let's go
Wyatt
back to
Johnson.
Jamie Benn. Can you repeat 60 points?
he was on pace for 60 points last year.
He did 60
He
and
did
82
60
last year, 78 and 82 the year before, and 46 and 82. 3 consecutive years he didn't miss a game.
I mean, if I look at that, I would say that his average is about 60
Ish.
ish. So maybe he'll hit 60 again
With the progression of the young guys,
if you're not in a salary cap.
I see a bit. I'm closer to 50 than 60, between 50 and 55. But yeah,
Okay, so Wyatt Johnson, we already know that that
Vince thinks he's a point per game player.
Producer Vince owns him. So 82 point player. What do you think?
I don't think. I think there's an increase in production. 65 and 82. I think he can improve on that. And again, maybe losing Pavelski and not replacing him necessarily. I think that's more power play time for Wyatt Johnson,
Can I tell you
which
something?
only had 10 points on the power play.
Can I tell you something very impressive? 82 games played last year, 82 games played before that. That was his first 2 years in
Yep.
the NHL.
Very
So,
impressive.
to your point, I do think that there's an increase in his stats for next year. I think we're looking at around 70 to 75 point player next year. Can he be in 2 years from now an 80 point player? It's another big jump, but maybe. Maybe. I mean, if he starts getting power play time this year, which he didn't have much last year,
No.
if he starts taking over power play one duties from the Pavelski that left, then you're looking at a 75 point player most likely.
I say his playoffs this year were unbelievable. It seems like he turned the tide. And even you guys talk a lot about the stats. Shots 160 in the first year. Second year, he went up to 216. So you see he's getting that confidence of shooting the puck a little more.
Okay. Tyler Seguin. What are we looking at?
I'll go with. He had 52 points in 68 games last year. I'll go with more and more of the same, 50 points, give or take. But
he was on pace for
I see him more
63.
declining now, not going back up to the 60s.
Yeah, I again, I ranked this guy. I put him in our list just because he hit on pace for 63 points last
Yeah.
year. I'm expecting him to be around the 50, 55 point pace again.
No argument here.
So, okay, not really fantasy relevant, more of a waiver wire guy. Jamie Benn, we mentioned. Matt Duchene, $3 million player.
Well, listen, if you're in a cap league, you take him as your reserve, but
Well, let's look at the stats. So last year he had a 67 point pace. The year before that a 65 point pace. The year before that a 90 point pace. The 90 point pace is a little bit out there, but 65 and 67 point paces the last 2 years pretty consistent.
Pretty consistent. I just think the young guys need to get more ice time as they develop, and I think that's going to come to the expense of the Jamie Benns, Matt Duchene's, and Tyler Seguin's. We'll see how it goes because they're also a team that needs to win.
Duchene
But-
had 45% of the power play time last year.
Yeah, Duchene averaged over 2 minutes of power play time. Those kids average less than 2 minutes. I think that might be a bit of a swap. So give me like 50 to 55. Again, like Seguin, slowly starting to decline.
Okay.
Still productive in an NHL standpoint, but fantasy relevance less.
At $3 million in a cap league, definitely somebody to look
yeah,
at.
yeah.
Stankoven, you started talking about the young guy. Stankoven is going to play this year.
yes,
What are you expecting?
40 points. I
Okay,
would-
so not really fantasy relevant yet.
No, I think he'll get up there, but right now, I think to
Still
expect,
only 21 years old.
exactly to expect
Only
more,
played 24 games.
first full year in the NHL to expect more than 40 points. I think is pushing it.
He was on pace for 48 last year, but that's really a small sample size,
Yeah.
so hard to disagree with that.
Yeah, I think natural progression should be about 40-point range.
Okay. Yeah, no real power play time. I don't think he's going to...
Second unit, maybe.
Second, yeah,
yeah,
maybe
he's
second
not going to
unit.
take away from
No,
the Heiskanens, the Robertsons, the
No, no.
Hintzes, the Wyatt Johnstons.
He'll be probably with the vets, mixed with the vets on the second power play unit.
Okay. Emil Hemming, we know that he was drafted this year. Good player for the future. I don't think that Antonio Stranges might get a cup of coffee this year. Maverick Bork, he's probably going to get another... I'm predicting about 20 to 25 games this year. But like Stankoven did last year, not really fantasy relevant this year.
On their depth chart, though, he's like their third center.
Yeah, but he's not.
But Seguin could play center.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of
he's
Ben
not
could play
necessarily
center.
gonna play center, but yeah, it's the same thing. Like it's first year in full. I think he'll get almost a full season in the NHL.
Maverick Burke?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he'll get a full season in the NHL, but I don't expect him on PP1. Don't expect him. They're just gonna bring him in slowly, and whenever they see he's on a hot streak, then put him with the top players.
Christian Kyrou was drafted in the 2022 draft, defenseman with some offensive ability. Not really expecting him to be in the NHL this year, but it's somebody to keep an eye on for fantasy in the future. Minetian as well, 2023 draft pick. Probably not somebody fantasy relevant this year, but could be someone to keep an eye out in the future. And Bichelle, 2022 draft pick. Don't expect him to be in the NHL this year, but somebody that, again, keep an eye. Dallas just drafts so well.
And
The
Harley?
last guy, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Thomas Harley, yeah.
What do we project for Thomas Harley? He had 47 points in 79 games last year. What are we forecasting here?
I feel Heiskanen is going to take back his rightful ownership of that number one defenseman. So I think he'll be on the first power play. So with that, I think Harley on the second power play, he'll get some points, but I don't think he'll be getting...
Well, listen, a 47 to 50 point defenseman is fantasy relevant.
But you see, I feel he's more in the lower 40s than the higher 40s.
He did 47 points last year, and he
Yeah.
only played 26% of the power play.
But Heiskanen got hurt.
But they, if I'm not mistaken, could it be they play together?
Yeah.
They play on a top
They
pair
have them
together?
together.
I just think his goals, 15 goals, is not sustainable. That might drop. I don't see him getting another 15 goals.
His
But
shooting percentage was only at 10, though.
10, yeah, I know. But he also shot like 144 shots on goal for a defenseman is still pretty high.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that he can do again. Look, 40 points. Easily 40
Low 40s.
points.
I would say low 40s.
I think his role is increasing. And his role is increasing. They got rid of a bunch of... they got rid of Suter.
Well, yeah, they got,
So
to make space for him.
I think that he's going to be playing more time on ice. He had 21 minutes of time on ice last year, but he's going to be around that range again. To me, I think that natural progression is going to be 50 points for Thomas Harley coming. And it hurts me to say that because I traded him right before he became an NHLer.
All right, sum it up.
Sum it up. So Dom Lucian had Dallas graded as the 30th, second worst team, or third worst team, in the NHL for their offseason. And the reason for that is because they brought in guys like Matt Dumba, Brendan Smith, Lyubushkin. These are all guys that...
Role players.
They're role players, right? And losing Tanev was a big loss. Losing Pavelski was a big loss. And they didn't really replace that. So Dallas is really relying on internal growth from all these young players, from their amazing drafting to keep moving upwards. And I still think that this is going to be a contending team again next year, even with losing all these players, right? Any other thoughts, or we can move on to Minnesota?